pragmatic way, where you allocate either land in a phased-in way, where people, as you were saying, you build forests and then who owns them. But if they can be owned as a common good, then you're moving to another level. So all I'm trying to say is, as part of the reconciliation, why not build this, not imaginary, but the best vision for that country in terms of forest and land rehabilitation? What can be done at that point, and then bring in all the IUCN specialists and map out your future for the country as part of the peace-building process. It can't be that much more expensive than all the other solutions. And when I looked through the books, it's very little about that. And this immediately, once you rebuild these areas, some, of course, maybe you just have a little bit of not trees, but some kind of vegetation cover, but you would get the water systems back. So what can be done in an ideal way to do that?
Thank you very much. We have 3 minutes to take questions and 5 minutes to answer. Here. And I think this closes the list of those persons who ask questions.
I'm Sarah Brunel. I've been exploring the topic of the link between the military and biodiversity, and I'm wondering whether, as a suggestion for this commission, expertise could be developed in environmental mediation to maybe send experts into the field to try to understand the problem, the biodiversity resources to secure, or the land resources or forestry resources to secure. This is a proposition which had already been done by John MacDonald from the US in the 90s, and whether this mediation could also be done as a pre-conflict situation to try to stop the escalation of violence when natural resources are involved into conflicts.
Thank you.
I have found very revealing your session, and I think that perhaps more emphasis should be done on environment as an issue for confidence building. You know, I was in a mission of the OSCE in Nagorno-Karabakh and Azerbaijan, or with a line of contact. I don't want to, you know, Nagorno-Karabakh has been invaded by Armenia, and the issue was forest fires, you know, and then for the first time, you know, there was a mission that could go to both sides of the line of contact, you know, and I think this potential of environmental issues to become the first, you know, for the starting dialogue that may lead to peace, I think is an aspect that you could perhaps take forward. I saw that there were cases already. That's very encouraging.
Thank you. You're the last one.
I think these case studies, maybe all of them are from developing countries, or okay. So because
most are from developing countries, but there are some from developed.
Okay, some are from because most of like the cases which we presented, poverty was very obvious, and so maybe that is also like we were discussing. But my basic question is that can, from environmental perspective, the topic was during and after, can proactively some indicators to avoid conflicts be established, because I think Pakistan and Afghanistan situation, if you look at the conflict, it is very long term conflict now, since last 30 years, and the migration of people, especially families, how they are like on cities, they are how they are, and then the loss of livelihood, that itself creates conflict in cities. And my last comment is that production of weapon and trade of weapon also is one cause of conflict, and we haven't discussed that, and I think that is major. I think that is a major contributor to conflict, and which actually happen in poor country more rather than where it is manufactured and where it is kind of traded. So that is.
Well, thank you very much. You organize among yourselves who is going to say what.
Starting with the first question, there are many different approaches that are taken in a post-conflict situation. There's growing attention and growing willingness to talk about environmental issues, sometimes nationwide, sometimes in a specific sector, or in the case of the Iraqi marshlands, with a specific environmental, valuable environmental location, natural resource. The question of, do you start with the ideal and then see what can support that, or do you start with something less than ideal? The question of what your destination is drives your path. That if you are shooting for something that is here, then you go this way. If you're here, you take a different path. With the Iraqi marshlands, and with a growing number of experiences, you see that sort of dialogue at the beginning with different scenarios laid out. So with the marshlands, what does it look like if we restore the marshlands in its entirety? What does it look like if we restore 80%, 60%, 40%? And what does it take to get there? And to use that as your kind of, which is the desired end state? And then ask what steps, the backcast, what steps do you need to do to get there? That is increasingly being done, but it's still early in the process.
Well, I was thinking about Rwanda, that is now doing a nationwide restoration effort, but of course 94 to now is a long way, but that lesson learned could do so much. And the other aspect, Rwanda, is pretty amazing, is the peace and reconciliation. So that, when I looked in your book, I might have overlooked these two aspects were there yet. So I hope in the next issues that will be in.
Some of these issues that have been brought up are in future books. So the role of natural resources in reconciliation is in the governance model.
But the
and there are multiple.
Is not about that. That is
No,
forgiveness,
understood.
And that's a whole different range that a lawyer will maybe think, oh, it's not about fairness at all. It's certainly unfair, but you can still resolve the conflict.
Yes, and I should note that, yes, I'm a lawyer, and the other members up here are lawyers, but of the 225 contributors, less than a quarter are lawyers. Most of them are anthropologists, hydrologists, foresters, people that are not lawyers. And so we have a vast diversity of perspectives. With respect to environmental mediation, you're absolutely correct. This is central. Yes, sorry. This is really important. We have a couple of examples where this has been done at a local level, including in Ecuador. That's in the 6th book that's coming out, where there is but it requires money, and there was a specific trust fund to interdict where you see something starting to flare up, send somebody out as a mediator to try to resolve this before it really escalates. There aren't too many examples of this, which is why we're very excited to have that case study, but it is very important, and it's something that is good to emphasize. Confidence building, also very important. The book on water is where this comes out the most strongly. That water, everybody talks about water wars, but you see a lot more instances, much greater percentage of instances of cooperation than conflict around water. And so that is one of the dominant themes of the water volume, which was not circulated because it's not yet ready to circulate. We also have a chapter in the synthesis volume on not only on water, but how protected areas and other resources also provide opportunities for confidence building in the peace building process. With respect to indicators to prevent and avoid conflict, you've seen here two steps of kind of the conflict cycle and the role of natural resources in during conflict and after conflict. There's that whole realm of the environmental causes of conflict that I alluded to, but we have not really focused on. Some of that is just trying to get something that is discrete that we can focus on. There are people out there that are working on this. It is very tough. And to develop reliable, effective indicators to say, look out!
Yes.
But there are people that are working on this, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with some of that research. And the same thing with the production of weapons. This is something that's very important, has been worked on for a while. We have not focused on it. We acknowledge it's important, though, and glad that you raised it. With that, I think my comments are at a close.
So is our session. I'm glad that nobody else does to us what we did to the previous group. I think that two final remarks which are necessary. First of all, a great thank to the project here. I think you have seen what can be done in terms of advancing knowledge by a well-organized worldwide research network. This is really exemplary, and that must be said. That being said, the way from here was also designed to a certain extent after the books are published, the lessons learned process and the input of the lessons to be learned into political processes is a task which I'm sure the group will address afterwards. So a great round of thanks to you. This has been very inspiring, and well, thanks to you for remaining with us, but you looked as if you were really interested and enthusiastic about what you heard. Thank you very much, and this meeting is adjourned.
이거만 딱 누르면